nation.
Jamaicans have always had to fight for what they want. From the days of colonialism, which started with Christopher Columbus's quote-unquote discovery of the island in 1494, until today, Jamaicans have gotten nothing without blood, sweat, and tears. Over the course of history, different individuals have held the torch of defiance and stood up against the hierarchy of injustice that's been designed to keep the masses under quote-unquote control. During the height of slavery, there were brave souls like Tacky and Sam Sharp, Paul Bogle and George William Gordon, just to name a few, who were brave enough to stand up and lead the masses towards deliberation, towards freedom. And today, we find that there are also some brave souls who are willing to tackle the new regime. There's a famous quote that says, "My bones can be scorched from fires, broken by betrayals, stained with blood, and still I will keep on fighting." That was the spirit with which our foreparents fought for the freedoms that we enjoy today. And today we're going to look at some very brave Jamaicans who had the guts to fight so that the rest of us didn't have to. First, we're going to look at Tacky. In the Easter Rebellion of 1760, a group of slaves led by Tacky carried out a rebellion in Port Maria, St. Mary. To ensure that they had weapons and ammunition as powerful as those of the imperial soldiers, they resorted to killing a shopkeeper in Fort Haldane and relieving him of his stock of gunpowder, muskets, and cannonballs. After that, they head to the plantation where they slaughtered several slave masters and their families. By daybreak that Tuesday morning, many other slaves had joined the fight, and soon the entire parish of St. Mary was under siege by about 100 slaves. This rebellion shocked the British imperial system to its core, because up until then, that was the bloodiest rebellion they had ever experienced. The Christmas Day Rebellion, also known as the Baptist Rebellion, because the majority of the slaves were of the Baptist faith, started on the Kensington estate in Montego Bay shortly after Christmas of 1831. 60,000 of the country's over 300,000 slaves were mobilized in that 11-day march and massacre. Their leader, the Right Honorable Daddy Sam Sharp, had used his limited moments of freedom to gather supporters and organize their plan. He was so determined that he even had them swear on the Bible that they would follow the plan just as it was outlined. First, they demanded more free time and refused to return to work after the holidays if their demands were not met. When the plantation owners refused to meet these demands, a full-scale rebellion broke out. Sugarcane fields, great houses, and surrounding buildings were set ablaze as the colonial masters and their families fled to other areas of the island for safety. January of 1832, when the rebellion had finally ended, both sides suffered great casualties, and the organizers who survived were eventually executed. Sam Sharp was hanged. Nanny of the Maroons. In the early 18th century, Nanny of the Maroons masterminded numerous attacks against the British Empire in Jamaica. She was an Ashanti warrior from Africa who was versed in guerrilla warfare tactics along with supernatural powers. The British never won a fight against Nanny and her hundreds of guerrilla fighters. In the end, they sought peace with the Maroons, and in 1740, a peace treaty was signed with them, and the Maroons were awarded 500 acres of land. Today, that place is called Moortown. Marcus Garvey. The first dying that is to be done by the black man in the future will be done to make himself free. In his fight for equal rights and justice, Marcus Mosiah Garvey traveled the world organizing and participating in freedom fights from North America to Europe and to West Africa. His organization, the Pan-Africanism Movement, sought to unify and connect African people from all over the globe. While in America in the early 1900s, he founded the Negro World newspaper and started a shipping company called the Black Star Liner. This Black Star Liner was expected to repatriate lots of African people who were distributed all over the world during slavery back to Africa. He also started a fraternity for black nationalists called Universal Negro Improvement Association. All his life he fought for segregated equality, but when he died in 1940, segregation and inequality remained rampant in many societies. The Morant Bay Rebellion. When Paul Bogle led a peaceful march to the Morant Bay Courthouse in 1865, he expected a fight because the ruling British Empire were not about to have a former enslaved, uneducated black man oppose them and their imperial system. Don't forget that this was 1865, some 33 years after the British had announced that slavery had been abolished in Jamaica. Armed only with sticks and stones, the people who were being led by Paul Bogle that day were willing to go up against bullets and muskets because their cause was worth more than their fears. Paul Bogle was hoping to negotiate with the imperialists, but instead was met with gunfire. After that, all hell broke loose. The courthouse and its surrounding buildings were burnt to the ground, and complete civil unrest ensued. When it was all said and done, 25 people had been killed. The rebellion angered Governor Edward John Eyre, and before long he had ordered the execution of the ringleaders, which included Paul Bogle and George William Gordon. And what were these hangings and public executions meant to accomplish? They were meant to scare and frighten anyone who was thinking about mounting a similar opposition. The effects of such tactics still prevail today, because recently, when the newest political party in Jamaica, the UIC, led a peaceful march against the existing conditions on the island, and particularly the vaccine mandates, many who are die-hard supporters of the two existing political parties were quick to call the move pointless. And when the party's leader, Joseph Patterson, was arrested, many cheered and congratulated the government and the constabulary force. This proves to me that many of us would love to benefit from the changes that come with the blood, sweat, and tears of others, but are not willing to engage in the fight ourselves. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Father God, I'm begging you to guide me on my journey.